Agriculture is the basic for the human need. That's how the entire mankind, that's how the entire civilization started on this earth. Agriculture is all about sustainability. It's all about the brotherhood. It's all about staying together as a single community, trying to understand growth in a protected manner. India has got still agriculture as one of the major occupations in most of the parts. Good morning and welcome to the session 4 of Entrepreneurship Development Program, and we are going to talk about the agricultural entrepreneurship today. We have spoken about different types of entrepreneurship, starting from the women entrepreneurship, the rural entrepreneurship. Now we are going to talk about agricultural entrepreneurship, what we call as the backbone of the Indian economy. Now that is going to be the topic for today, and this is a very interesting topic. So let's go forward and try to understand what we have in terms of agricultural entrepreneurship. Moving forward, the introduction for this is not actually needed because agriculture is the basic for the human need. That's how the entire mankind, that's how the entire civilization started on this earth. So probably this is one profession that did not just have an introduction, but that is the foundation of earth. It does not require any formal identity at all, because agriculture is born with each one of us. It is in our DNA, because the very first thing that human beings always go in search of is food. So without agriculture, you will not be able to sustain on this earth. So what is agricultural entrepreneurship all about? Are we talking about food management? Are we talking about organic farming? Are we talking about the different outlines of agriculture? We are going to have a look into it. Now, agriculture is considered as the main economic activity which adds or goes to the overall wealth of the country. So which adds to the overall wealth, which means to say that there is no further thought about it. Agriculture is such an important factor that you cannot ignore it. You cannot stay out of it. This is not something like an e-commerce or like an IT or probably like a banking or any other sector which can stay back, which can modify, which can start changing its own course of action. But this is something where you cannot avoid it, where you cannot say anything better for it. It is always inbuilt. So that's why I would say agriculture is the most important factor. Followed by, in the past, agriculture is always seen as a low technology investment and a low technology business altogether, or rather a profession altogether. Why is that all about? Because if you look into the scenario, many families in our country did not know about the technology or the methods that can be used in agriculture. It was a traditional methodology that was followed by hundreds and thousands of families which depended on it. So even right now in India, agriculture is something which we do not know much about it in terms of technology. We still believe that the traditional methods that are involved in giving a lot of scope actually matters, and that's how it has been going forward altogether. Now, however, in the last 2 decades, I would like to say this situation has changed dramatically because of the economic liberalization and a fast changing society. Today, agriculture is not that. Today, agriculture is a situation, is a profession which has got lot of changes, lot of improvements, new technology, new methods have all come into picture, which is actually trying to make agriculture as an interesting profession, as an interesting outlook altogether. Agricultural companies have to adapt to the erratic demands of the market, varying consumer habits, stringent environmental regulations, and they need to protect the product quality, safety, sustainability, and so on. So what are we actually trying to understand in agriculture is that though this is an evergreen business, an evergreen profession altogether, but to become an entrepreneur in the lines of the agriculture, it requires a lot of commitment and ideology altogether. It is not that easy as we say. Why? Because many a times you might find that agriculture, though people talk about it widely, but they don't want to get into it because it has its own challenges, it has its own factors, and it goes on to that level where there is so much of rules and regulations that are involved, and you need to put in a lot amount of physical hard work, which will make the entire system even more challenging. Followed by the role of an agricultural entrepreneurship. So what is the exact role that you see as an agricultural entrepreneur? The first thing is that it's a common language which talks about a sustainable, community-oriented and directed marketed agriculture. Now, agriculture is all about sustainability. It's all about the brotherhood. It's all about staying together as a single community, trying to understand growth in a protected manner. Agriculture cannot be done everywhere, and agriculture cannot be done in any method. It has certain protocols. It has certain methodology. You need to understand how to take agriculture as a system, as a methodology altogether, as an understanding altogether. So what I would like to say here is that the sustainable agriculture refers to that of a system-oriented approach to farming that put emphasis on the interrelationship of social, economic, and the environmental aspects. So what is very, very important here that I would always like to mention to you is that there is a lot of emphasis in terms of the interrelationship. Now, when I talk about this interrelationship factors, it is very, very important. Why? Because you need to understand what are all the different kinds of factors that are getting involved, what are all the different connections we have with respect to the market and to the different factors altogether. Agriculture is not a business that can be done in silos. It has got a lot of environmental connections. Agriculture needs to understand the market prevailing factors, the labor factors, the financial aspects. So agriculture is a lot of complexity in terms of running the business altogether. Followed by, it is a beneficial combination of agriculture and entrepreneurship to convert your farm into agribusiness. Now, most of you would have heard about this common factor or a common business, rather, I would say, known as the farmhouse these days. The farmhouses are primarily what we are trying to do is not just about the leisure factor, which I'm trying to talk, but what I'm trying to make you understand is that many of the farmers are today converting their lands, the agricultural output, into a marketable surplus, which means to say that they are just producing it so that it can go ready for the market. Now, for an example here, if you look into the organic production of tomato, potato, lady's finger, brinjal, or any kind of vegetable that we are talking about, if they can be packed properly, they can be done under organic cultivation, the demand for these vegetables in the market will go to a next level altogether. So that's where what people are today talking about is that even if you are not ready to run the business, you could probably give that business to somebody, convert your farm into an agri-business by handing it over to companies, handing it over to people who are ready to take it up and run it as their personal business, and you could probably make an income out of it. So what we are seeing here is that agriculture is now becoming a promoter for entrepreneurship in the market. This is going to be something very, very fantastic. Why? Because every single time, let's understand this factor clearly, agriculture is not just going to stop anymore with just producing of vegetables, rice and wheat and other factors, but agriculture is going to go to that level where we're going to identify markets, where we are going to satisfy the need of the customer by understanding the various activities, by understanding the various wants of the customer. So we are going to satisfy, we are going to find ways of reaching the customer. Now, again, I would like to go back to the examples of Big Basket or Grofers. All these people have gone to the extent of making a cooperative, collecting all the goods from the farmer, creating a union, creating an e-commerce app through which they can sell it in the market. So for the farmer, what it has happened today is that even though he is not able to go to the market, sell the product directly at an optimum price, companies like Big Basket, companies like Grofers, companies like JioMart are ready to come forward, take the produce from the farmer and make it to a profitable level altogether. So that's where what I'm seeing is that agriculture is becoming a completely commercial business. It's opening up the doors for those young entrepreneurs who can go forward, change the dimensions of the business and make it even more attractive altogether. Followed by the term agri-entrepreneurship is similar with that of entrepreneurship in agriculture and the agribusiness sector altogether. Now, if you look at companies which are involving themselves in agribusiness, they are going in terms of processed food, they are going in terms of factors like the condensed food or ready-made food packets or ready-to-eat kind of thing. All these factors are a part of the agribusiness, which is much more advanced and which has got a larger potential altogether in the market. Now, if you look at companies like ID, MTR, or if you look at companies like Archie or ITC and all those companies, they're all agri-bound or agri-based altogether, because what they are trying to do today in the market is something that was already available with us hundreds and thousands of years back. Now, for example, a pepper powder, or when we talk about a turmeric powder, or when we talk about those masalas, they were all being manufactured and made in our home itself. But today, look at the amount of commercialization that has happened, and they have been able to successfully convert it into different flavors and different packets, and the marketability level of these products have gone up really high. So what I'm seeing here is that agri-entrepreneurship, the role of an agricultural entrepreneurship, is going to go to the next level as far as possible. Moving forward, we are also going to talk about the need and importance of agri-entrepreneurship. Now, firstly, it helps in achieving productivity, profit by small farmers by amalgamating into the local, national and international market. So this is very, very important. Why? Because we are now able to combine into the various aspects of the market. We are able to combine, we are able to think forward, we are able to create a market that is going to have all kinds of utility and benefit put together. Secondly, it is going to help people in terms of decreasing the food cost, in terms of providing high quality diets to the rural and the urban poor people in India. Now, if you look into the factor of agriculture, it is always ever demanding. Man has never said no to food at all. Whether you live in a city, whether you live in a village, or you live in an island, you need food to survive. So agriculture always has a demand, and that demand can never be taken off. So whichever part of the country you are, whichever state you are, you need food to survive, you need food to keep you alive. So agriculture is always having an open market demand through which this business can continue for ages to come. Followed by, I would also like to talk about the acceleration part when it tries to drive the growth, diversity. It's also an income gainer. Plus, it is now trying to promote entrepreneurship among the youngsters, where people once said that, what is the role of an agriculture? What can a farmer do altogether? But today, the dimensions are changing. The ideology is completely changing. A farmer is no more a personality who's just going to stand there and who's just going to sell some products. But a farmer is that kind of a person where you will be able to see that his name, his amount of reach, his amount of diversity is going to make him even more richer. So there is going to be a new dimension, a new opening in terms of entrepreneurship. Followed by the entrepreneurial skills and characteristics that you need in terms of the agricultural factor. One thing is that it is an efficient and prescribed development of a person to an entrepreneur, which means to say that what we are trying to do is we are going to convert the farmer with an amount of skill sets that he needs. He has to have a set of quality to convert his mindset from just being an employee base, from just being a farming base, to that of an entrepreneurship. Secondly, the development of entrepreneur here tries to inculcate that skills to the common person, including the desirable knowledge, higher technical and financial marketing management expertise in order to bring in the entrepreneurial outlook, which means to say that the training and development plays a very, very big part in the agri-enterprise business altogether. That is very, very important. Why? Because if you are not going to bring in that factor inside, if you're not going to train people, if you're not going to make them knowledgeable, if you're not going to make them understand how business needs to go further, how business needs to look upon in terms of the agriculture industry, then we will not be able to grow at all. So it is highly important that we look into this, we take it seriously, and then we start building it. Followed by the entrepreneurial development, that what we are talking about might be a program where we need to plan, where we need to create, assist a program altogether so that you can help each and every farmer, each and every agriculture entrepreneur to enhance his skills, to sharpen his knowledge, and to give him a better entrepreneurial outlook altogether. Now, for example, I would like to bring in the ideology of ITCE Chopal, which is a very, very good example here. Why? Because they took the effort of converting the farmers into an agri-tech entrepreneur altogether. Now, if you look into ITC's business of Classmate, or if you look into the ITC's business of paperboards, ITC's business of the food division altogether, it was all possible because they were able to go to the rural areas, take the farmers into confidence, give them training. They were able to create an entire wave of an technology, tech-savvy oriented entrepreneurship in agriculture. And that's why today all those small towns and villages are flourishing because of this company. Moving forward, I would also like to talk upon here on the entrepreneurship development opportunities in agriculture. The first thing is that due to the globalization factor that has been happening, trade and agriculture, the policy reforms at national level, scopes and opportunity, what we are going to talk about in agri-entrepreneurship, have significantly expanded. There's going to be a huge opportunity that is coming up, and a lot of, the interest levels in the agriculture business has been going up very, very high. The rapid increase has been happening here in terms of the agri-enterprise. Secondly, the world wonders and it is hopeful for a very, very fast-growing Indian rural market. India has always been a market of abundance. It is not just a market of surprise. It is always a market of abundance, a market for demand, a market which is always having the diversity factor. So with all those things, the growth strategy in terms of the corporate, in terms of entrepreneurship is always there. So most of the countries today are looking into India in terms of investment, both in agriculture as well as in the corporate sector. Needless to say, India has got still agriculture as one of the major occupations in most of the parts. So definitely a lot of companies want to invest in the land, want to help the farmers, want to create an even more diversified entrepreneurial outlook. Now, according to surveys, the total rural market is definitely larger than the urban market, no doubt about it. Why? Because the number of people who live in the rural sector is about 72%. Only 28% of the people lives in the cities or in the urban area. So, roughly if I have to talk about, it's a 75:25 ratio that we are talking about. So the potentiality in terms of the rural market is definitely high. Followed by, I would also like to talk upon a factor in terms of what are the industries that we are looking in terms of agri-entrepreneurship. We are starting with the agro-processing units, which are processing the food, converting it into a particular format, manufacturing units which go into the raw manufacturing altogether, agro inputs. Now, for example, it might be fertilizer, it might be the variant seeds, it might be the biologically modified or genetified seeds altogether, service centers which are looking into the customer care. So you have a processed food industry, you have a manufacturing industry, you have companies which work exclusively on seeds, on fertilizers, on growth factors, plus you have service centers which actually look into the queries of the customers as well as the agricultural entrepreneurs so that they are able to do the business in a better manner. Now, The other thing that we are going to look about is the factor called as value-added agribusiness. Now, this is a quite interesting concept. Why are we talking about this value-added agribusiness? Tata Group, when they came up with their varieties of food factor. Now, I would like to talk about in speciality the Tata Sampurna, which was talking about the dal, about the various kind of pulses and rices that came into the market. They were the first people to go ahead and advertise talking about the unpolished dal, the unpolished rice altogether, which means to say that they wanted to talk about something which is actually free from pesticides, free from any kind of chemical base. So when you're going to add value to your products, like in terms of unbleached flour or a gluten-free food, heritage apples, all these kind of things are one which are more healthy for the life, and they are not derived by any kind of factors which are trying to add chemicals. Now, when I say that value add, the value add is a significant part of the product which is targeted towards the health of the customer. Now, if you add value, you are not just doing it by reducing the price, or you're not just doing it by making it into more colorful packing, but what you are trying to do as a value add is that you are trying to make the customer understand what is good for your health. So when you are talking about an agricultural produce, you need to see that the economy in terms of booming for agri economy is understanding the customer better, trying to give him the foods that will really keep him in a better shape altogether. So that's why the value added in agribusiness is a huge potential for us to turn around. Followed by a direct connection is established between the consumer, farmer and the farm products. Now, you have seen a lot of cooperatives in India. You have seen a lot of people doing this as a home business, where you have seen people like doing the farm fresh kind of ideology, direct from the farm to the house. So they don't want middlemen. They want to see that the raw produce that comes out of the farm, the healthy vegetables, directly reach to the hands of the consumer. So what we are trying to do here is that we are trying to make the customer's life better. We are educating him on the factor that let's go completely organic. Let's not go into those kind of vegetables or packaging which will try to dilute the health. So that's how the value add in agriculture business is extremely good from the social aspect as well as from the commercial aspect. With this, I come to the end of this session. I hope and believe that all the information shared with you is highly useful and of great help for you. In the next session, we will be talking about the different factors of the entrepreneurship development. Until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay enlightened forever. Thank you once again for joining me on this wonderful session.